the Daily Mail. As soon as I saw that Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were murdered, I knew exactly who it was. Stay up in the night talking about his parents, saying, quote, how much he effing hated his parents.
One of his former roommates, this guy had lived with him with Nick Reiner back when they were teenagers. They lived at a very fancy rehab. It was something like, let me see, like $60,000 per month, a Malibu rehab. And apparently they had been friends. They shared a room at this rehab when they were 15 years old. They had a big fight. And he gave some insight into Nick Reiner. He said that Nick was a very, sort of a violent person. He had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. He hated his parents. He talked a lot about how much he hated his parents. He said specifically that Rob and Michelle Reiner did everything they could, but that he just kept talking about how much he effing hated his parents. And he had a lot of oppressed anger. So, if that comes out at trial, I think that could potentially undermine any insanity defense.
Oh, yeah. Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder. Print that. Print that.
Imagine living your life as a Hollywood legend, creating the most beloved films of a generation, only to have your own story end in the most brutal and unthinkable way possible.
You will not find one single person in jail for a violent crime who had a great childhood.
Are you serious? I mean, there are studies that show this?
Yes.
This is the tragic reality for Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, who were found fatally stabbed in their upscale Brentwood home just weeks ago.
He did not want to talk about his family. He made it clear that he wanted to stand on his own 2 feet, that he wanted to be a big deal in the movie business. And yeah, I'd go as far as to say maybe even a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
He was fiery. You don't seem very fiery to me. You seem like you might just...
I get crazy.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to set me off.
No, some big blow-ups there.
No, we both can get
You don't roll easily either.
No, we can both get pretty hot, and there were times when we did get hot.
But as the investigation deepens into their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, a chilling and explosive new testimony has just surfaced from someone who saw the darkness coming years ago. A former rehab roommate is stepping out of the shadows to reveal that Nick didn't just struggle with addiction, he harbored a deep, volatile hatred for his parents that frequently boiled over into physical aggression.
It's tough. So you take a kid who's a teenager going through a tough time no matter what. His brain is going through all kinds of changes, and he's trying to establish himself and his identity, and then you mix in the drugs with it, and it makes for a really bad cocktail.
Yeah, I had no identity, and I had no passions, and I think the reason I had no identity was because, I have a famous dad and a famous grandpa, and they sort of, that fame sort of informs who you are. So I wanted to etch out my own identity with a more rebellious, angry, drug-addicted sort of persona.
We are talking about a young man who cycled through 18 different high-end treatment centers, a family that spent millions trying to save him, and a final, fatal argument at a celebrity Christmas party that may have been the breaking point. Was this a calculated act of resentment or a tragic mental health collapse fueled by a sudden change in medication?
Yeah, it's about 5-6 years ago. I was in LA and we had coffee together. He had a project that he was trying to get up and running. He'd struggled. He'd really struggled trying to find his footing in Hollywood. He co-wrote that movie that his dad produced, but nothing really since then.
The details coming out of the Twin Towers Correctional Facility are absolutely staggering, and they paint a picture of a family nightmare that no one saw coming, except for those who lived it with him.
Love him. I don't love him. No. You've had plenty of choices, Charlie.
Rehab or jail, quite a wide selection there.
One of us had to keep him safe.
For him or for you?
I can't stay here anymore, okay? This place is like a prison.
It's not even close.
If you are new to the channel, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. It's free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks, if you did. Now back to the show.
And so it wasn't a very pleasant meeting. I remember walking away from it thinking the only thing that makes Nick interesting is the one thing he's trying to get away from, which was his family. It was a tricky meeting. He turned up late. I remember he didn't smell really very very good at all. In fact, he smelled terrible. He looked really disheveled. He looked like he had just woken up, and he was annoyed. He got angry with the staff when they got his order wrong.
The shockwaves from the deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner on December 14th, 2025 are still being felt across Los Angeles and the entire entertainment world. Rob Reiner, the man behind When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride, was 78 years old. His wife Michelle, a gifted photographer, was 70. They were pillars of the community, but behind the gates of their South Chadbourne Avenue estate, they were living a decades-long battle to save their youngest son. Now, as Nick Reiner sits in jail without bail, facing 2 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances, the narrative of the son who just couldn't get well is being replaced by something much more sinister. A former roommate from a high-end Malibu rehab facility, Danny Speiler, has come forward to the Daily Mail with a testimony that is as heartbreaking as it is terrifying. Speiler claims that back when they were teenagers, Nick didn't just complain about his famous parents, he spoke about them with intense hostility. According to Speiler, when he heard that Rob and Michelle had been murdered, he didn't even have to ask who the suspect was. He knew immediately it was Nick. Speiler describes a young Nick Reiner who was volatile and prone to physical outbursts. He recalls one specific incident where Nick became so aggressive toward him that rehab staff had to intervene to prevent a full-blown assault. But the most chilling part of Speiler's account is the focus of Nick's rage. While he reportedly harbored anger toward the whole family, the majority of his resentment was directed squarely at his father. This is particularly tragic considering that Rob and Michelle were, by all accounts, incredibly dedicated parents. Speiler noted that despite Nick's vocal hatred, the Reiners showed up for everything. They attended every therapy session, every family program, and spent an estimated $60,000 a month on treatment centers. They were desperately trying to help him, but according to this new testimony, Nick may have viewed their help as a form of control or a source of deep-seated bitterness. As we move into February 2026, the legal drama is reaching a fever pitch. Nick's arraignment is officially scheduled for February 23rd, but the defense strategy is already stirring up controversy. His original high-profile attorney, Alan Jackson, who famously represented Harvey Weinstein and secured an acquittal for Karen Reed, withdrew from the case in January, citing circumstances beyond his control. However, before he left, Jackson made a bold statement that has everyone talking. He told reporters, "Take this to the bank. Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder." This has led many to believe the defense will lean heavily into Nick's documented mental health struggles. Sources close to the case have revealed that Nick has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, a complex condition that combines symptoms of schizophrenia and mood disorders. Even more shocking are the allegations that Nick's behavior took a sharp downward turn just 1 month before the killings because he altered his medication. Why? Because he was allegedly worried about weight gain. The timeline leading up to the December 14 tragedy is haunting. Just 24 hours before the bodies were discovered, the Reiners attended a star-studded Christmas party hosted by Conan O'Brien. Witnesses say Nick was acting crazy and freaking everyone out by repeatedly asking guests if they were famous. This behavior reportedly led to a very loud argument between Nick and his father. Rob, ever the protector of his family's reputation and his son's well-being, reportedly chastised Nick for his conduct. It was the last time the public would see the legendary director alive. Hours later, in the early morning darkness of their Brentwood home, Rob and Michelle were awake and in separate rooms when they were both fatally stabbed. Authorities say the attack was brutal, and the legal system is now grappling with whether Nick was in a state of psychosis or acting out of a lifetime of built-up resentment. Currently, Nick Reiner is being held at the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, where he has appeared in court with a shaved head and shackled, looking worlds away from the young man who once co-wrote a movie with his father to process his addiction struggles. The prosecution, led by Deputy District Attorney Habib Balayan, is weighing whether to seek the death penalty. Meanwhile, the Reiner family's surviving children, including Romy, who was the one to discover her father's body, are asking for privacy as they navigate a grief that is compounded by a sense of betrayal. The question that remains for the February 23rd hearing is simple but devastating. How does a family go from spending 18 stints in rehab to try and save a life to being the victims of that very same life? The family first motto of the Osbournes stands in stark contrast to the Reiner tragedy, reminding us that sometimes, despite every resource and all the love in the world, the darkness can still win. Thank you so much for watching.